Mr. Dean, you sitting right there?
Just so I can watch you.
I can't believe that. Yeah. Who picked those? Who picked those seats? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the St. Tammany Parish Council meeting, Thursday, June 4th, 2020, St. Tammany Government Complex. This is our first meeting, our official meeting with the new setup, and it looks pretty full, and that's great. And I know we'll be expanding, hopefully, in another few weeks, and we can have some extra people, but I think this will work very well. I want to welcome everyone for taking the time to come. It's a little difficult speaking with these masks, but we'll do our best, and we'll kind of go from there. So what I'd like to do is call on Councilman Toledano to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. For the invocation, I'm going to ask Councilwoman Ms. O'Brien if she would honor us with the introduction, please.
Absolutely. I am honored to introduce Pastor Donald Burris of the Goodwill Baptist Church of Mandeville. He's a native of Folsom, Louisiana. He actually is the owner of Donald Burris Landscape Group also. He's been involved in so many different things. Before he says our prayer, I'd like for you to know just how much he does for and with our community. He's a chaplain with the St. Tammany Parish Coroner's Office. He was an alderman city council for 4 years in Folsom, recognized as one of the real men of St. Tammany Parish in 2016, an active board member of the Home Mission Board of Louisiana Home and Foreign Missions Baptist State Convention. His community service includes involvement with the Samaritan Center Food Bank, the Donald Burris Christmas Pals, Boys and Girls Club, Community Gardening, American Red Cross, City of Mandeville, St. Tammany elected officials, St. Tammany Wellness Center, St. Tammany Law Enforcement, Safe Harbor Domestic Abuse Program, Drug and Alcohol Recovery Program, and Trouble Youth Programs, and more. So we are very honored to have him with us today. Please welcome Pastor Donald Burris.
Thank you for this opportunity. Before I say the prayer, there's something that I want to say that's very important. First, you all honor everybody else. I keep up with you on Facebook, through the paper, but tonight I want to say thank you guys for what you all have done during these last few months of the COVID-19. As I travel the community from Folsom to Slidell on a daily basis, the guidelines that you all have set forth to this community, to this parish, have been great. People are practicing the guidelines that you all have set forth. I want to say thank you for your untiring efforts for what you all have done. President Mike Cooper, I am very grateful. During the time that I served with the council in Folsom, you was the president of the St. Tammany Municipal Association, and you made sure that I was the vice president. And as you have moved to a higher level, I want to say thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Martha Casaban. We do community outreach on a monthly or every 2 months that you all call and ask if there's a need in the community for the people that I'm around, that you need to come visit or you need to participate. Maureen, thank you for always reaching out beyond the call of duty to be concerned about your constituents. Thank you all once again. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity to be here. We pray and ask your blessings on our president of the parish, this council, and in the times that we're living in now. We want to pray for encouragement for our president, this council in their respective districts. Continue to give them encouragement in their leadership. I pray for their health and strength. And most of all, that we have compassion for our brothers and our sisters. And in a time like this, I pray for peace. We give all of these blessings in Jesus' name. Bless this parish, and God bless the United States of America. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll for me, please?
Mr. Dean? Mr. Fitzgerald? Ms. Casabon? Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Tanner? Mr. Toledano?
Present.
Mr. Lorino?
Present.
Mr. Canulet? Mr. M. Smith? Ms. O'Brien? Mr. Stefanczyk? Mr. Bender?
Here.
Mr. Airy?
Here.
Mr. T.J. Smith? You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the meeting itself, I think it would be very appropriate to make a statement about the current situation that we're now dealing with as a nation. And I'm very honored to be able to do this on behalf of the entire council that is present here tonight. So if you would mind, indulge with me, I'd like to read a statement that I put together. On behalf of the entire parish council, I'd like to take a moment to address the tragic situation that began in Minneapolis last week and has impacted people across our country and the rest of the world. I cannot begin to understand how difficult this time is for American citizens that have to worry about racism and police brutality every day. All I can say is that my heart and this council's heart goes out to every one of them, especially the family and friends of George Floyd. When we see police brutality and violent protesters, we need to remember that there are many, many more people that we do not see. We have law enforcement officers all across the country putting their lives on the line every day and serving their communities with honor and dignity. And we have law-abiding Americans, citizens, trying to make their voices heard. It is important for all of us to be part of the finding of a peaceful way forward from here. I believe the process of healing and change must start with each of us. And when we truly listen and hear each other, we will finally be able to meet in the middle and create true peace and prosperity. As the citizens of our region come together in solidarity, peacefully supporting one another, we stand with them. That's the statement from St. Tammany Parish Council members that are here. What I'd like to do is look to my right. Is anyone would like to comment? Anyone on the left?
Reno, I join in your comments and thank you for them. They were very well said.
Thank you. Anyone on the left? Mr. Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a brief statement that we'd like to read into everybody's hearing in reference to the same subject. Last week, America reached a grim milestone of 100,000 lives stolen by the coronavirus, while at the same time the breath of George Floyd was being stolen by another virus called racism. In broad daylight, for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, 4 Minneapolis policemen callously and cruelly asphyxiated Mr. Floyd using a chokehold, which led to a lack of blood flow to Mr. Floyd's brain and subsequently his death. Lamentably, Mr. Floyd's state-sponsored murder was not an isolated incident. It was but the latest chapter in a centuries-long history of white supremacist violence that has taken the lives of far too many black people. This moment demands that each of us, especially those of us who are not black, act with great urgency in the defense of black lives, to support the work of ending police brutality and white supremacy, and to bring forth a world and an American order in which black people are truly free and liberated. There are many ways of participating in this work, and here is something you can do now that will make an immediate impact. And I invite your attention to 2 Chronicles 7 and 14, when the words of the Lord says, if my people that are called by my name, believers, will, number one, humble themselves. Number two, they will pray. Number three, they will seek his face. And number four, they will turn from their wicked ways. And he says that to all of us, that when we do those things, he will begin to hear from heaven and he will heal our land. We can do better. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and I agree 100%. Mr. President, would you like to go to the podium and Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for those compelling and articulate words regarding the recent incident. And I can only say that anybody who witnessed that can agree that that was intolerable and not appropriate, totally not appropriate. And I'm so proud of our community that has protested in different forms and fashions, but it's all been in a nonviolent and peaceful manner. And that's the way we can protest this while still showing how we find these acts despicable, and to show how we're going to move forward in the manner that you've articulated. while I have the microphone, I'll also say that I'm proud of our community for the past nearly 3 months that has gone through this pandemic that we're facing. We started on March 13th with a stay-at-home order. And the positive cases grew. The number of hospitalizations grew. We had a stay-at-home order. And it became very difficult for our community to do business. Our businesses closed. People lost their jobs. Restaurants closed. Nonprofits had to cancel or postpone events where they were depending on money to generate income to sustain their causes for the year. It's been very difficult. In the height of the pandemic in April, we saw a rise in positive cases and hospitalizations and ventilator use. But then with our citizens taking the precautions and heeding all of the precautions to mitigate the spread of the virus in our communities, we're seeing the number of cases dropping, the hospitalizations dropping, the use of ventilators dropping. Our businesses open again. Our restaurants are opening again. And tomorrow is a magic day because we see 50% capacity in our businesses and restaurants, so it will be a great day. But it has been very stressful on our community, and I think each and every one of you acknowledge that. And we've worked through it, and we still have a long way to go because we're not there yet. And the virus is still within our communities and will be affecting our entire communities, but mostly the elderly, those who have underlying health conditions, but others are not immune as well. Others have the ability to get infected with the virus. So I'm here today, again, to thank our citizens and to ask that they continue to heed our precautions, bear with us. We want to get open in a healthy means. We're balancing the health of our community and the economic health of our community as well. And we're working each and every day to move us forward. And one other thing before I get to the presentations of the employees of the month is we've got a tropical storm getting ready to bear on us. And I'm not going to stand here and give you all the statistics and the weather analysis, but we're prepared. I want to let you all know and let our citizens know that we are prepared, and we ask our citizens to be prepared as well for anything that may come our way this weekend. We'll keep you informed on the local media. We'll keep you informed on our local access channel, STPG-TV, channel 710, on Charter, channel 99, AT&T UVerse, and many other means of keeping up with the weather. So we ask you to be prepared. We're prepared, and we'll keep you informed.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And the next calamity, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, actually, I was going to say, I don't know what else is going to come, but 2020, since you came in, has been a very interesting year. And I just, you know, if you can make it this far, you might get through the whole year. That's
It is
all
a
I'm gonna
test.
say.
It is a test, okay.
But anyway, before we get to the presentations, I got a couple of things, and I'll call you right back.
Okay,
up.
sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Before we get to that, anyone in the audience that would like to comment for or against an ordinance or resolution or discuss it, whatever you want to do, please fill out a card so that we can call you up and speak on it. If there's no card filled out, then we're not going to have any discussion from that individual. So please take your time and do that. It'll be a few minutes, but I just want to make sure that we take care of that. Public comment, if you fill out a card on any issue, it's a 3-minute time limit for each member of the public wishing to speak for or against an item that is on the agenda, except appeals. And that's very important, items that are on the agenda. Tonight, we do not have any appeals on the agenda, so therefore, I won't have to go into that portion of the requirements for that. So therefore, Mr. President, I will call you back, and the floor is yours again, sir.
I'm here to present Employee of the Month. But since we haven't been in the council chambers for the past 3 months, I have Employee of the Month for the months of April, May, and June. So first is Employee of the Month, St. Tammany Parish Government, for the month of April, Mr. Rick Loggins, Director of IT. Rick, will you come to the microphone? No, you can't shake. But I'm gonna hand you that. Okay. You just stand up here, we'll look this way. Whereas since July of 2008, Rick Loggins has served St. Tammany Parish as Director of Technology, consisting of the departments of IT, Geographic Information Systems, and Archives. Whereas Rick continuously works to advance St. Tammany Parish government through smart and cost-effective technology deployments, he initiated and was the driving force for the implementation of the Enterprise Resource Planning, ERP, program, and in his role as ERP project manager, continues to integrate St. Tammany Parish government departments and processes into the Munis system. And whereas through his guidance and direction, the GIS district was formed and continues to serve the agencies and citizenry of St. Tammany Parish. He serves as a board member on a number of boards, including the Louisiana Digital Government Summit and the Louisiana IT Symposium, and serves as an advisor to other agencies and organizations. And whereas Rick has worked to maintain vital network technology infrastructure and communications through many emergency events, including the BP oil spill, Hurricane Gustav, and the current COVID-19 outbreak. During the COVID-19 event, he organized the quick deployment of systems for parish employees to work remotely, including meeting their needs for connectivity and virtual meetings, while maintaining the security posture of St. Tammany Parish government. He also assisted and provided technical expertise to other St. Tammany Parish agencies in their remote workforce requirements. And whereas Rick Loggins is an outstanding, devoted servant of St. Tammany Parish and performs his duties in an exemplary manner. Now therefore I, Michael B. Cooper, as Parish President of St. Tammany Parish, do hereby recognize the hard work, dedication, and accomplishments of Rick Loggins as Employee of the Month, April 2020, and encourage all employees of St. Tammany to thank him for his contributions and commitment to St. Tammany Parish. Congratulations, Rick. Why don't you say something?
I accept this on behalf of my department. These guys rose to the occasion. When we asked them to deliver, they did. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Rick, on behalf of the council.
Employee of the Month for the month of May 2020. Mr. Daniel Zecchinelli. Whereas for over 25 years, Daniel Zecchinelli has served St. Tammany Parish as the STPG-TV station manager in the Department of Public Information. And whereas Daniel ensures the accurate and timely dissemination of information on STPG-TV, our high-definition government access channel. And he leads his television crew in original production and in capturing the essential accomplishments of St. Tammany Parish government. And whereas Daniel excels as station manager and has been a keystone in the creation and further development of the station, he was instrumental in the transition to high def in 2011, making our channel the first government access channel in Louisiana to do so at that time, and only the second in the U.S. Whereas Daniel has a passion for his work and takes great pride in producing an excellent product. He works collaboratively and supportively with members of his own team, as well as every department in parish government. And whereas Daniel has worked through disasters like Hurricane Katrina, Isaac, the BP oil spill, and now the COVID-19 pandemic. During COVID-19, he has tirelessly worked to facilitate vital public service announcements, press conferences, and video conferences for parish government. And whereas Daniel Zecchinelli is an outstanding, devoted servant of St. Tammany Parish and performs his duties in an exemplary manner. Now therefore I, Michael B. Cooper, Parish President of St. Tammany Parish, do hereby recognize the hard work, dedication, and accomplishments of Daniel Zecchinelli, Employee of the Month, May 2020, and encourage all employees of St. Tammany to thank him for his contributions and commitment to St. Tammany. Congratulations. Employee of the Month 2020 is Vanessa Wall. Vanessa? Whereas in September 2003, Vanessa Wall began service to St. Tammany Parish as an administrative assistant in the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, and was recently promoted to Emergency Management Coordinator in March 2020. And whereas Vanessa has an outgoing, positive, can-do attitude and demonstrates outstanding initiative in performing her duties. And whereas she has an exceptional willingness to do whatever need be to ensure the smooth running of her department and during the COVID-19 event, has gone beyond what's asked of her, as well as taking on the additional responsibilities and duties of a vacant position in the department. And whereas Vanessa takes great pride in her work and is a valued member of the Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness team. And whereas Vanessa is an overall outstanding employee and performs her duties in an exemplary manner. Now therefore I, Michael Cooper, President of St. Tammany Parish, do hereby recognize the hard work, dedication, and accomplishments of Vanessa Wall as Employee of the Month, June 2020, and encourage all employees of St. Tammany to thank her for her contributions and commitment to our parish. Congratulations, Vanessa. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it, Mike. We'll go to number 2. Ms. O'Brien.
Okay, well, it is always an honor and a privilege to do a presentation and a recognition, and we have another very special one. We celebrated in Mandeville the birthday of Captain Jim Syracuse, and I want to tell you a little bit about him before I tell you about what we did for his birthday, or what the community did. But Captain Syracuse was born and raised in New York City in Upper Manhattan on May 22nd, 1920. He signed up for the Army Corps in 1942. He's written a book about his life experiences named Tarzan of Manhattan. When he joined the Army Air Corps, he signed up in the 8th U.S. Army Air Force based out of England, and he served from 1942 until the end of the war in 1945. And you see the pictures on the screen because he cannot be here, obviously, because of the COVID situation. He was a pilot of the A-20 light attack bomber and reached the rank of captain. He and his wife Mary had 2 children, Karen and James Jr. He's got 2 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. He was a deacon in the Gentilly Baptist Church in New Orleans and was a Sunday school teacher and was there for 40 years until he moved to Mandeville in 2002. He came from New Orleans, and then he went to Mandeville First Baptist. And I'll tell you, I know this for a fact, he loved to pass out God Loves You tracts. In the last 15 years, he's given out over, and this is not a typo, 250,000 of the tracts. I was one of the people who many times when I was walking along the lakefront, Captain Syracuse would give a little handout, and he wanted everybody to have the same faith he did. He's had so many different awards. I could be here for the longest time talking about it, but he was especially 3 years ago, he was awarded the Wounded Warrior of the Year by the Wounded Warrior Heroes. And some of you may remember at the age of 99, we recognized him after Steve Scalise honored him with a medal, talking about his bravery and service in World War II. But we're here to talk about his birthday. Obviously, the community did not do what we initially wanted to do, but his family and people from the church stepped up, and I wish we had pictures of that part of it, but they did one of those birthday drive-bys. One of his favorite restaurants is La Lou's Restaurant, and he sat out there, and then afterwards, some of the closer family and friends, and you see the birthday picture right there, that's some of his closer family and friends, they got together for cake. So he is really a jewel to this community, to Mandeville, and to our country. So on behalf of St. Tammany Parish Council, St. Tammany Parish government, the people of Mandeville, St. Tammany, Louisiana, and the entire United States, we want to wish a very happy birthday to Mr. Jim Syracuse. May God bless you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Number 3, Ms. O'Brien, I'll just let you roll right into that, ma'am.
Well, this presentation is much more solemn. Today we're going to recognize the memory of Captain Vincent Nat Liberto Jr. upon him being named, his name being inscribed on the National Law Enforcement Officer Memorial in Washington, D.C. I did want to let you know all or some of his accomplishments before reading a write-up that the Mandeville Police Department had posted. He was a very special gentleman. He died at the age of 58 years old. His end of watch was September 20th, 2019. But before he was in the Mandeville Police Department, he graduated from the Orleans Parish Criminal SO Academy in '82, and he worked for 2 other law enforcement agencies before coming to Mandeville. He served in the Mandeville Police Department 25 years, and again, you can look up and see some of the pictures since we're not having people come here because of the COVID situation. He was a corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and then he also won multiple Police Officer of the Year awards. He had been a FBI National Academy graduate and polygraph analyst. He also was in the USMC with honorable service and discharge as a sergeant with a little over 10 years in the USMC, and he served as a combat tour in the First Gulf War. He was a very devoted father and husband, married to Tracy. I understand they had a wonderful relationship, and he was the father to 7 children: Vincent, Chad, Michael, Bailey, Tyler, Dominic, and Victoria. I didn't know what to say. This is a hard one. Mandeville Police Department posted this, and I thought it was the appropriate thing to read. Every year, families across the nation would be meeting up in Washington, D.C. for Police Week to honor fallen officers who paid the ultimate price as they follow their calling to become law enforcement officers. This year, unfortunately, COVID-19 has canceled memorials and Police Week. However, this does not mean that we do not honor our fallen heroes. In the state of Louisiana, Captain Vincent Nat Liberto Jr., Mandeville Police Department, end of watch Friday, September 20th, 2019, was added to the National Enforcement Officers Memorial to Memorial Panel 21 West 32. When asked about Vincent, his family said the following: Vincent instilled in all of us that family is the most important and to never take it for granted. He was our family's person, our glue, our moral compass. He was the person we could talk to about anything, go to for advice, help, and we always knew he would listen without judgment. Vincent was a loving husband and father that we could all count on to show up when needed. He was just starting to establish his role with his 3 grandsons. Their relationship was just growing and so cute to watch. We will forever miss our hero. For now, we will keep our eyes out for the Papa pennies. We will try and learn something new every day and continue to look for the little signs showing us he is forever with us. He always looked forward to Sunday dinners where his kids, grandkids, and family would get together. He was the life of every party and everyone's favorite drinking buddy. Captain Liberto was also a great mentor. Since his tragic death, we'd have had several men and women approach us and tell us, because of your dad, I am not in the system. He gave me a second chance when no one else would. I am thankful to have known him and appreciate all he did for me. He never saw failure. He always saw mistakes or something to learn from and make yourself a better person and to help others not make the same mistakes. Captain Liberto will be forever remembered by this community, and on behalf of the council, St. Tammany Parish government, our prayers and best wishes go with his family and friends. And if you go to Washington, D.C., I encourage you to please go and see where his name is inscribed. He will be forever missed.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. And so true, so true. Okay. We'll go to number 4, Mr. Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is acknowledgement of a gentleman, Furman Sims, who passed away recently during the COVID, but not from COVID, at age 91. For 6 decades of commitment to the youth sports and for being a Christian role model to the youth of the greater metro area. Why did I put this on our St. Tammany agenda? Well, not only did he coach me, which is not his most notable thing he did, okay, by far, but not only did he coach me as a young boy growing up in New Orleans at Bunny Friend Playground, but I know this, living in St. Tammany Parish, well over 100 to 200 parents and grandparents who had the great opportunity to be coached by this man who was, first and foremost, a lover of God, happened to be a devout Catholic, and every day we had practice or a game for anybody that ever played for Coach Furman. The Lord was not preached to us, was simply the thought put in our minds as young people as to the importance of keeping God in our life. So he has many, many notable accomplishments. To best of my knowledge, he is the only youth sports coach to be installed as a member of the All-State Sugar Bowl Hall of Fame, which occurred in 2006. He took kids from the greater metro area and went up north and won 5 Babe Ruth national championships and 1 Babe Ruth international championship. He started Biddy basketball in New Orleans, and our children and our grandchildren have had the opportunity in Slidell, Mandeville, and Covington to compete in Biddy basketball. He expanded it to Puerto Rico and, believe it or not, Finland. And those children play Biddy basketball. So through the years, Coach Furman, when we and every team that he coached, and I might add, for those of us who are 50 and above, he was the youth baseball coach for the great Rusty Staub, who went straight from high school and was drafted first by the Houston Colt 45s, who became the Houston Astros a year or two later, and played Major League Baseball for over 20 years. For those younger, he also was a coach of Will Clark, the great first baseman for the San Francisco Giants, and many others in basketball and baseball. But to me, his biggest accomplishment, which consistently was this: before a game, he would say to every team he's ever coached the same thing: who is first? And we would all respond, God. And he would say, and who's second? And we would all say, our family and our teammates. And then he would say, who's last? And we would say, me. Now, he wasn't demeaning us. He was simply putting in our minds the first and the fourth commandment: love the Lord thy God and honor thy father and thy mother, thy family. And then we will do just fine if we can do these things. So during this COVID event, many had to watch on virtual TV as his church in Metairie tried to put as many people as they could safely in to tell Coach Furman goodbye. This is truly a gentleman who not only allowed our children all over the greater New Orleans area, Jefferson Parish to St. Tammany Parish, to play youth sports, but he allowed them to play and he helped them to play with a great role model, which I say is Coach Furman. So, Coach, I know you're in heaven. Thank you for everything you've done, and thank you to your family. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Benda, and I must make a little comment. I happen to be one of Coach Sims' very good football players, okay? I happen to be, I know that, I can see that, but I lived in Chalmette, and I went from Callan Park Playground to Bunny Friend. That's right. So anyway, I think I might have knocked you over a few times, but I'm not sure. But anyway, you're correct. Coach Sims is very, 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 as most coaches and most people are that devote their time to the kids and growing up. So I just wanted to say that I knew Coach Sims. Thank you. Ms. Casaban, number 5.
Yes, I may need some help from Mike on this one too, because he's been an active part of my uncle's life and many presentations. I'd like to acknowledge and recognize my uncle. His name is Philip Sharp. He is 110 years old. He is an active member of New Zion Baptist Church. He started off as a cattle rancher years ago, but probably maybe 20 years ago, they sold the cattle, and now it's a tree farm. But he is, like I said, an active member of New Zion Baptist Church. All this he is still doing. And he would not want me to say this, but I've always been amazed that he actually passes his driver's license test and he still drives. He was he was featured with the late Nancy Parker. He was the one that drove her to the little country restaurant that day, and it was a wonderful and beautiful interview she did. It was one of her last ones. Mike has had the privilege of him being the master of ceremonies in the parade at Covington's bicentennial that year, and I think he was 103 then. This December, he will be 111. I talked to him the other day, or his daughter-in-law, and the grandson had just taken him to get a haircut. So he is a phenomenal human being that's been very active in our life and in our community, and I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Ms. Casabon. Number 6, Ms. Casabon.
Yes, this is in recognition of David Pittman for his longtime service with the fire department, District 5. We still call it the Folsom Fire Department. I have to learn what numbers. But David started out, he had a wonderful family example. His father, J.C. Pittman, had a service station there. I can remember when we grew up, and I know that he helped his father and saw the need, and he really was one of the founding firemen, our volunteer type firemen that we had back then. But he just retired and devoted his life to our parish and to the Folsom area for 51 years. He just retired, so I'd like to acknowledge and recognize that accomplishment.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. And, you know, that never ceases to surprise me that people donate their time and their effort to St. Tammany Parish, and all they get is just what they put into it, and most of them do such a fantastic job. So thank you very much. Members of the council, President Cooper asked me if I could move up an off-the-floor item that he has for presentations that's very important. So if you don't mind, I'd like to have a motion to open the floor to move up an off-the-floor item. Would someone make the motion? Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Davis. Would everyone please vote? Okay.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Mr. President, presentation number 1, Jean Day charity check to Ride of the Brotherhood.
Cowboy Ed Lewis, you know this gentleman here, Vietnam veteran, recognized, served our country, serves our parish. Ride of the Brotherhood. If there's a veteran event, Ed Lewis is there. If there's something at the Veterans Cemetery honoring our veterans, Cowboy Ed Lewis is there. He serves on VMAC, which is the Veterans organization that serves St. Tammany Parish, that serves our veterans. We have over 30,000 veterans here in St. Tammany Parish. Well, our employees, for the privilege of wearing blue jeans to work on Fridays, puts a little money in the pot and raises this money for different causes. So for the past 6 months, The cause, selected by the employees, is Ride of the Brotherhood, represented by Cowboy Ed Lewis. And tonight, I'm here on behalf of the employees of St. Tammany Parish government to present a check to Cowboy Ed Lewis and Ride of the Brotherhood in the amount of $4,578. This is from the employees of St. Tammany Parish government. And let's see, do you want the big check or the small check?
I'll take both of them. That's $8,000.
There you go. Please say a few words.
Don't ask me to say a few words. You know I don't turn that down, Mike. I still can't get used to Mr. President. I like that. Ride of the Brotherhood is a parent organization, which we have two functions. I've addressed the council several times on what we're doing. One function is the return, which has been on hold because of the COVID, where I go back to Vietnam as the only nonprofit organization recognized by the U.S. government to search for remains of our Vietnam brothers who's still buried on soil somewhere in Southeast Asia. The other program, which is this, is going to help out greatly, as President Cooper mentioned, nonprofits, is Camp Nora, which is located on the back end of Lee Road by Barker's Corner. It is not only a homeless veterans transition shelter, but it's a veterans assistance program. Since COVID took the control of putting us in a lockdown, we didn't stop operating. We have had 2 vets that have progressed their goals and were able to, through full-time employment, move out into their own living arrangements. We've had 2 new vets come in. All our vets are employed. We are a 100% volunteer, so therefore we're not eligible for SBAs because we don't have employees, that kind of stuff. This right here is going to help us because as it stands right now, we're pretty much on a month-to-month basis. But by the grace of God, this program is not going to close. We're not going to let that happen. St. Tammany Parish needs this program. Since we opened March 3rd, we brought in our first vet, 2018. We've had 31 vets in our program, and that's just living in the program. What other vets can we help? I'm going to give you a good example. We got a Navy SEAL that lives in Madisonville. His unit, SEAL Team 6, was assigned along with Delta Force and airdropped into Iraq prior to Desert Shield being kicked off. This man has hit bottom. His wife left him, his father passed away, which was his guidance, and his mother has pretty much given up on him because she can't get him to do anything. She went to him one day and she said, "You need to make a decision to do something." And don't ask me how or why, but he told her, "Call Ed Lewis, I'm willing to talk to him." I didn't know the gentleman, never met him before. 2 days ago, he entered a program. He's going to get the help he needs. These are the people we cannot forget. So on behalf of the parish, Mr. President, the council, I ditto comments that were made for everything that y'all have done over the last 3 or 4 months. We're hoping to grow with the parish. We're hoping to stay functional, operational. As soon as the doors open and I can get out on the street and start talking to corporations, I'm gonna make this thing happen because it's been 2 years and we're not giving up. I too played for Coach Sam, so we got something in common. I think I'm younger than him, so I didn't play football. But anyway, the last thing I want to end with is, Mr. Smith, Mr. Loreno, I want to follow up on comments you made in the beginning. There's two things people can learn from veterans. Number one, you never know who's got your back. Race, color, creed, religion, doesn't matter. You don't know who's going to have your back. Number two, we all bleed red. It doesn't matter. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll go to appointments. We'll go to number 1, resolution to reappoint / appoint 5 members and 3 alternates to the Finance Authority of the St. Tammany Parish. They don't have it on here, Finance Authority Board. So what we have here, before we get to that, Ms. O'Brien has a candidate she would like to put up that the council has received his resume a month or so ago. And Ms. O'Brien?
Talked about this a while back, and unfortunately, procedurally, I was not able to nominate him because we kept on postponing everything. We missed a meeting because of COVID, and then we had a postponement. So I'd like to formally nominate Robert Boney, who is a financial advisor professionally, and he's also very, very involved in several nonprofits in the community. You have all received his resume. He comes very highly skilled.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. O'Brien. Is there a second? Mr. Davis, second. All in favor? Please raise your hand. Any opposed? Seeing none, Mr. Robert Bone is included in this appointment. What I'd like to do, the clerk or someone's going to pass out a list of the names. We have 9 candidates for 8 positions. And so what I'd like to do is to take the actual members of the Finance Board first. So if you will, when you see that, I'm going to read the current members of the Finance Authority. And that's Mr. Matt Faust, Mr. Ronald Randolph, Mr. Peter Kavanagh, and Mr. Mike Gambrell. They are on the board as we speak, and they have asked to be reappointed. I'm not saying you have to vote for them. I'm just letting you know what the situation is. So those are the members that are on there. We have Ms. Rebecca Robro, nominee Larry England, Melissa Alonso, Wendy Jarrett, and Mr. Robert Bourne. So everyone has the sheet for the 5 members of it. So if you would you please vote for the 5 members using the column in your district? Yes, sir. You can ask anything you want.
Okay, this would be for the staff, okay?
You go ahead.
So, where's Terry at?
The staff's over here to you. It all depends on what part of the staff you want. There they are, right here. They're
Where's
right.
Terry at?
There you go.
Terry? Terry? Oh, I'm sorry. So, I don't know which council member said this to me, but in the interest of, being fair to everybody on here, I was told before the meeting that this lady who's the current alternate, Rebecca, is it Robow, that this lady, y'all have not been able to get in touch with because, okay, which council member told me about this?
I'm sorry?
No, I'm just, in other words, what I was told, Mr. Chairman, was that this lady, Miss Robo, who I don't know, and I'm not for, doesn't matter, but I was told that she couldn't move into as the current alternate, she could not move into the open position because she was not available, or she moved, or couldn't serve any longer. So I'm just wondering, are we considering her for the board when perhaps she can't serve?
Okay. I'm going to, Mr. Airy, I think you wanted to, you were looking at me?
Yes, if you remember if you remember when this first came up, I'd asked the question of why, as the alternate, she didn't
That's correct.
automatically come into the board. That was one of the reasons why we took a second look at this, to find out why that didn't happen. And the information that I was given is that she was not available. Either she doesn't live in the parish anymore, or she just didn't want to be on the board. I tried to call the number that's here and could not get a hold of her. And the information that we received back was that she was not available to do this and didn't have the desire to do it. Either she wasn't eligible to do it because she doesn't live here anymore, or she just didn't want to do it. So that's why they didn't move her into the vacant spot. That was,
That is
as an
correct.
alternate, that's what should have happened to begin with.
That is
So that's
correct.
why there was a vacancy on the board, but I guess she didn't resign officially on the.
That's correct, Mr. Bender, and the fact that we did not receive anything that said she wants to, not have her name on there, we left it on here, and everybody has an opportunity to do whatever they want to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, dear. Sure. Okay, what we'll do while the staff is tallying up that, we'll go to the next resolution, and I'll come back to the first one once we have that. Resolution number 2, to appoint Carmen Butler to fill the resigning member term of St. Tammany Commissioners of the St. Tammany Parish Library Board, parish-wide. Mr. Smith? Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Mike Smith. Please vote. Any opposed? No.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Number 3, resolution to reappoint David Lindy to the Board of Commissioners for the St. Tammany Parish Fire District Number 4. Mr. Taladano? Motion by Mr. Taladano, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Resolution number 4, resolution to reappoint Tony Cloud, Eugene Phillips, Wayne Durr, David Bates, and to reappoint Mark McCullough to the Board of Commissioners for the St. Tammany Parish Sub-Drainage District Number 2 of Gravity Drainage District Number 5. Mr. Taladano?
I move that that slate be appointed.
Motion by Mr. Taladano, second by Ms. Casabon. Please vote. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Resolution to reappoint Brian Swerdell, Frank Mazzaraca, J. Paul Upshaw, and Michael O'Connell to the Board of Commissioners for the St. Tammany Parish Water District Number 3, District 4. Motion by Mr. Jimmy Davis, second by Mr. Taladano. Please vote. Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 6, resolution to reappoint Alvin Roussel Jr. to the Board of Commissioners for the St. Tammany Parish Fire District Number 5. Ms. Casabon? Motion by Ms. Casabon, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Please vote. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Seeing none, thank you. Okay, we haven't received anything yet from Ms. Teresa. I left off one thing I just wanted to mention, and I know Ms. Sarah Bergonis is here with the paper, but I hope everyone would remember that this is a census year, and it's very important that we fill out the census, especially with the circumstances that we're in now for funding legislative-wise. We really need that, and I would hope that the citizens of St. Tammany Parish would take that 2 minutes online to do that, and I just wanted to put that back out there. Mr. Mike Smith?
To second that, and I'd like to add that I saw online that out of the 50 states, we're 39th right now in returning our census return. So we need to do better than that.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Okay. We'll go to the ordinances, ordinance calendar, consent calendar. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar are automatically approved in whole by one vote. Items pulled from the consent calendar are discussed and voted upon individually. A majority vote of the entire council, 8 members, is required to adopt the consent calendar. Items that we have pulled thus far under ordinances for introduction are number 2, Ordinance 6367, number 3, Ordinance 6397. Under resolutions, number 3, C-6277, number 5, C-6279, number 8, C-6282. So that's the 5 that I have thus far. Mr. Fitzgerald, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Casabon?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Taladano?
No, thank you.
Mr. Jimmy Davis?
No.
Mr. Mike Smith?
No.
Ms. O'Brien?
No, sir.
Mr. Chris Canulet, way back there. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Stavancic?
No.
Mr. T.J. Smith? Mr. Bender?
No, sir.
Mr. Jake Airy?
No, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Dean? Normally you're first, but this time you're last. That's a good place for you. Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. All righty. Mr. President or administration table, do y'all have anything you wish to pull? Okay. Anything from legal? Miss Emily? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, I need a motion to approve all items not pulled from the consent calendar. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Taladano. Please vote. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Would you go check on, somebody go check on Miss Teresa and see where she's at before I get too full? I mean, yeah, not that Miss Teresa. She knows her. Katrina. I'm looking at her.
Mr. Reno, while we're at a pause, I keep seeing the sign in front of it that says verbal votes only. Do we need to do that for the record verbally also?
No. This is the verbal vote for the record.
Okay. I just misunderstood.
Thank you.
Almost done, there's still counting. need to make sure that it's got everybody listed.
Okay, we'll go to number 2, under ordinances for introduction. Ordinance calendar number 6367, ordinance to amend the parish code of ordinance regarding sign permits for government entities. Mr. Davis, I'm assuming that's Jimmy Davis. You go ahead, sir.
Testing, okay. On this one, it's a simple process. If you look under section B for some of the amendments to be exempted, I added number 5. I read over the ordinance, and number 5 states signs for government entities on property owned or leased by said government entity. Said signs shall not be considered billboards or off-premise outdoor advertising. What this means is, and we've noticed this before in the past, I even noticed this in planning and zoning. Anytime anybody comes up with a sign, they have to get a sign permit. You get a sign permit, you got to pay for it, obviously. It goes through planning and all that happens. Well, with rec districts, with fire districts, and with the school districts, I see no sense in them paying for a sign permit. It's taking money out of their taxes that are given by the people for that specific function. So that's what that means in that. But also, there's another big reason for this. There's been talk about maybe getting sponsorships for some of the buildings in the rec districts. As an example, let's take Rec District 1, where you have the blue building and the brown building and all these different colored buildings. What they're trying to do is try to get a sponsorship, maybe from Bluebell or Blue Bunny ice cream or something like that, and just have a small little placard or something like that they could put up, and they could generate more money. Because let me tell you, taxes are not going to make it right now. We know that. We've already lost some taxes in these last 3 months. So this is the reason why I think it's really a no-brainer for this, because I think it's a way to save them money, our own private entities, instead of recharging it back to us ourselves, and also a way for them to generate more money. And that's why I brought it up.
Okay, well, thank you. I see a note here, Mr. Davis, that they have postponed to the July meeting to a zoning commission meeting.
Yes.
Is that what you wish to do on this?
Well, I tell you, if I didn't have to go to the planning and zoning, I'd like to go ahead and get it done now.
I second it.
Okay. There's a motion. You make that motion to do that, Jimmy?
Yes, I'll make that
Okay.
motion.
And
To approve.
Mr. Canulet second that motion. So I'm assuming, Mr. Reese, we can move forward with that under that circumstance. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would you please vote if you're in favor?
It's just introduction.
What's that?
It's just introduction.
Okay, no vote? Okay. Yes, no, it's not going to go to zoning. This is just for introduction. Okay? So we have a motion and second, so this will go to introduction and not go to planning and zoning.
Right.
Thank you. Number 3, ordinance calendar number 6397, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 0.58 acres from A-2 to A-4 and MHO, Ward 7, District 7. Mr. Davis?
Yes. Now, on this one, if anybody's familiar with the Lacombe area off of Shady Pine Road, there are quite a few manufactured homes. There's this family that is living with some of her relatives in a larger house, and they need to go ahead and move out of the larger house. But to do that, they've been given a piece of property on the existing property that has to be downzoned from A2 to A4, and on that, she has to go ahead and put a manufactured home. Since there are manufactured homes in the area, I don't have any problems with it.
Okay, once again, this had on there, so would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to that effect,
Okay,
yes.
is there a second? There's a second by Mr. Mike Smith.
No, it has not been
introduction.
heard by zoning yet.
Right.
It needs to be referred to the zoning commission.
This one
They
has
have
to
it
be
on their
referred.
agenda.
Right. This one has to be referred to the next zoning agenda.
Okay, all right,
Yes,
perfect.
that's
So we
correct.
had a motion and a second, and that'll be referred to that, Jimmy. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you would, have we introduced that ordinance also at the same time? Was that Mr. Davis's
Yeah.
intention? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go back up to the appointments for number one that we voted on. And I have the members that will be the actual members of the committee. That'll be Mr. Matt Faust, Mr. Ronald Randolph, Mr. Peter Kavanagh, Mr. Mike Gambrell, and Mr. Robert Bone will be the new member on that committee. So we have 5 members that are now appointed. I'm going to pass out the second sheet, and we can vote on the alternates. And we need 3 alternates, and actually there's 4 people, but we already discussed the situation there. Thank you. You vote. So you can vote for as 3 alternates, not the 5 that I did. You want me to read out the 5 that on there again? You got them? Okay. What? Yes, they're on the list, Rocket. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We'll go to resolutions now. Resolution number 3, Resolution CS number C-6277, resolution to vacate in part the 6-month moratorium established by Ordinance C.S.18-3912 and any subsequent extension thereof for the limited purposes of allowing the issuance of permits for the re-subdivision or rezoning of property and/or the issuance of permits for construction or placement of any building structure on property within a defined area within St. Tammany Parish, Council District 14. Mr. Smith, do we have?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
card on this?
we pulled this for the purpose of, I don't think we need to make an amendment, but I think it's a typographical error in the 5th paragraph, whereas the owner of lots 22, 23, 24, and 25, it should only be of lots 24. So if I need to make an amendment, I will, but I think it might be just a typographical error.
Okay. I just had to check on something, TJ. Okay. So you feel like it's okay the way it is now? You don't need to amend it?
No, we do need to make that change of striking out 22, 23, and 25.
Okay.
It's only one lot.
Teresa, do we need to amend it?
Okay, well, we'll make an amendment then.
Okay.
We'll make a motion to amend it.
Okay. They have
Only
amend-
read lot 24.
Okay. We have that amended, second by Mr. Bender. Okay. Please, all in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none? Now I need-
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Now I need a motion for the resolution.
I make a
Motion
to
by Mr.
move
Smith,
on the,
second by Mr. Aaron.
Resolution as amended.
Motion as amended. Yes, sir. We had a motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Aaron. We don't need to vote on that. We do? Okay. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Resolution CS number C-6279, resolution to support the St. Tammany Parish Recreation District number 6 in acquiring lands for improvement. I need a motion to remove from the agenda per the request of the Recreation District. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Taladano. Please vote. Thank you. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Number 8, resolution CS number C-6282, resolution to select a newspaper as parish official journal. I need to postpone, a motion to postpone to allow the bids to be advertised for procurement. Motion by Mr. Taladano, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to ordinances for adoption. Number 1, ordinance calendar number 6307, ordinance to amend the parish code of ordinance regarding the purchasing procedures. Mr. Stefanczyk.
Agreed with the parish president to postpone this 3 months, but I'm going to ask that it be postponed 6 months. That'll give us time to get through hurricane season and the pandemic. So I move to postpone it for 6 months.
Okay, motion to postpone for 6 months, second by Mr. Davis. Please vote. Thank you. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 2, ordinance calendar number 6358, ordinance to officially name, thank you, ordinance to officially name and access servitude Memory Lane. Need a motion by Mr. Taladano, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Please vote. Thank you. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 6359, ordinance to extend for 6 months the moratorium on property within precincts 102, 112, and the unincorporated portion of precinct MD1, District 4. That happens to be mine. And we have a card, Mr. Mike Sochay.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Please state your name. Yes, I'm
Mike Sochay. I'm here tonight representing the St. Tammany Parish Chamber as their Governmental Affairs and Public Policy Committee Chairman for 2020. Also, I'm here speaking on behalf of the St. Tammany Corp. Todd Whaley is here with St. Tammany, and I believe Kyle Cooper is here or is on his way with the Home Builders Association. As y'all may know, Councilman Lorino, the administration, Ross Liner, our groups, in addition to the North Shore Business Council, have been working on rewrite of the codes and ordinances to clear up some things, make things more efficient here, more clear for people that are coming into the parish looking to do business. I'm happy to report that that process is going very well. And but there are some things in the codes and ordinances, like the moratoriums, that decisions are being made for 6 months. So those items that, like that, and there's a couple of other ones that we have extracted from this discussion to bring attention to sooner than later, and this is one of them. In 2 previous meetings, we have read letters into the record with again, representing the same groups, in general opposition to moratoriums as it relates to business activities. I don't need to go over the specifics of that. But tonight, I did want to talk about where we have made progress since the last time we spoke with Councilman Lorino, and we are working on changes to the section in the ordinance 2.623 that deals with emergency ordinance, which moratoriums fall under, and to try and get that moved up and maybe even discuss the next council meeting for amendments to that particular ordinance. So as it relates to tonight, I want to thank Mr. Smith. I believe you vacated some portions of some of your ordinances. We had 6 moratoriums on the docket last time. We have 4 now tonight. But I did want to ask generally, as these moratoriums come up, for the councilmen that have proposed them to make a statement regarding the status of those particular moratoriums, and we'd like to know why those should be continued for 6 months. We recommended at the last meeting that moratoriums may be extended maybe for a month at a time or 2 months at a time. So that is why we're here tonight. And again, I want to thank Mr. Lorino, the administration, for looking into this very, very important matter. That particular portion of the ordinance does need some rework and is unclear in some areas, particularly as it relates to longevity of ordinances. And we do think some of the moratoriums that are being proposed tonight have been around way too long and need to be closely looked at. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. And this is my ordinance. I'll touch on a couple of things. My moratorium. I'm not going to go into the dissertation on how I think moratoriums are a very viable part of doing business and helping the citizens in St. Tammany Parish. So, but I will agree, and I mentioned it to you, and I have passed out to the members of the council a proposed idea that may allow moratoriums to be in place, but would allow people like yourself, the community, the developers, to follow through, and the councilman would update that. And I'm working on that, as I mentioned to you all, and I hope to have something by the next council meeting. But I firmly believe that moratoriums are good, but I also firmly believe they should not just be made and then dormant and nothing said about them for a period of time. So I'm going to ask the council to move forward with my moratorium. I can't make a motion, but I'd like someone to make a motion in a second to move my moratorium. Unless someone wants to speak on this, I'm sorry. Mr. Stefancic, would you like to speak on this also? And I don't know, Mr. Smith, if you did. I saw you raise your hand there.
Yes, I'd like to. I'd like to make the motion, but I'd also like to speak on it.
Yes, sir. You go right ahead, and then I'll get to you, Mr. Smith.
I'll move to approve the ordinance calendar number 6359.
Thank you. A second by Mr.
Now,
Smith.
Mike, I agree with you. I've looked at some of these moratoriums. The one in Mike Lorino's district, I think we have a plan for it. It's just going to take a while to get done, but we do have a plan for through RPC and everything else as to how to correct the situation down there. And then until then, I don't see you opening that up. So that's why I'm going to support this one. But I am basically opposed to most of the moratoriums in this parish, unless they have a definitive time frame and unless they have a plan to get it done. And if they don't have that plan, they don't put a moratorium in place. So that's different than in this case, because I think we do have the plan there. It's just a matter of getting it funded and getting everything built now. So.
Thank you, Mr. Anyone else like to speak on what Mr. Saucher had to say about, his very, very sensible discussion on this? Because, like I said, moratoriums are important, but moratoriums need to be discussed and laid out so that everyone is aware of them, and we can go to that. So Seeing nothing else, please go ahead and vote on the motion and second. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you. I hate to keep bouncing back around.
Motion is
but
unanimous, one absent.
Oh, thank you, dear. I'm going to go back to the Finance Authority Board one more time. This will be the last time. We have 3 alternates, Mr. Larry England, Miss Melissa Alonso, and Miss Wendy Jarrett will be the 3 alternates. So now we have a full board, and we can move forward with that and put it to rest. So, okay. I need a motion and a second to accept all the appointments to the Finance Authority Board. Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Mike Smith. Please vote. Please vote. Okay. Any opposed? Seeing none?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Number 3, ordinance to extend for 6 months the moratorium on, that's mine, I'm sorry. I don't want to go through that one again. Number 4, ordinance calendar number 6361. What's that? Okay. Ordinance calendar number 6361, ordinance to extend for an additional 6 months the moratorium on the opening of new streets in Angelique Estates, Ward 3, District 5. Mr. Taladano, you might be the first one that can comment on why you had that moratorium there.
Right. Well, you told me to do it, Mr. Leno. Just kidding. Thank you very much. And for the record, I'm going to move to adopt that ordinance with the right pleas or the privilege to explain. This one has lingered for some period of time, and Mr. Saucier makes a good point on this for the public as well as for all of us to just be reminded. Angelique Estates is a unique area in my district, and it had drainage problems as it relates to new streets being open. We have actually, in fact, released some of those streets as our engineering department has advised us that it is engineeringly sound to do so. But for the remaining portion, there has not been a satisfactory solution to accommodate the drainage in that area. And for this reason, as it relates to the ordinance to extend that moratorium for 6 months, I so move.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Taladano and a second by Ms. Casavant to extend it. I just have one question. Do you have any idea on the progress being made and how long that might take?
Well, part of it is, and Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Hand, part of it is a land acquisition issue. Am I correct, Terry? Yeah, and so at one time, frankly, we thought we had a resolution of the whole, but it sort of went south on us. So I would have to tell you that we don't have a definitive timetable as we speak tonight.
Okay, thank you, but I'm sure you'll be working on it.
We are, in fact.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Stefanto?
So what kind of a plan you have and how long that's expected to get done? This is 6 months and it's been out there quite a while. I understand that acquisition of property takes time.
Record, pay attention, Mr. Stefanto.
I'm so sorry, I was conferring with Ms. Cassidy.
Because I think if you don't do that, if we don't start limiting them, then we're back to where we were before and we're going to keep getting worse. So unless there's a plan for any of these that I can understand, and I don't understand where yours is because you just said we've lost the acquisition. I don't understand what you're going to do to get it taken care of and how long that's going to take. And you're saying 6 months, and my feelings is if we haven't done anything for the last 2 years, we should be planning on doing something now and getting it done. So I just want you to know I can't support an ordinance unless it's got I think Mike is here representing the right people, and I think they do a lot good for our community, and these things are just hurting them. So I'm not going to support it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, any other questions? Seeing no questions, we had a motion and a second to extend. Please vote if you're in favor. Thank you. Please vote if you're opposed. Thank you.
Motion passes. 1 absent, 2 nays, remaining yeas.
Thank you. Number 5, ordinance calendar number 6362, ordinance extend for an additional 6 months the moratorium on property abutting the Louisiana Highway 21 Plan Corridor, Ward 1, District 1. That could be Mr. Dean. Now you got it. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This, as we probably know, this is probably the longest lasting moratorium we have.
I think it's 20 years, if I'm not mistaken, but I may be wrong.
I don't think it was that far, but I'll tell you how far it started. It started way back the first time we widened 21, and then lasted to the second time we widened 21, and then I believe the third time we widened 21. It started down at Keys Road and went all the way up to the city of Covington. So throughout the years, I've either vacated portions when asked and to kind of discuss the different kind of development, or either I shrunk it. So now it's all the way up to Brewster Road, from Brewster to Azalea on and Flower Estates. The reason, and I'm just saying, I'm going to move to remove this, and I have one other, and we'll address that when it comes up, and I will move to remove it. But the reason is, and it's just as simple as right now, as you go out there right now, as we know, there are good developers and there are not good developers. And you go out there right now, there's a 3-parcel piece that was allowed to you to create their own or to have their own concrete plant. It's been there, I think, going on about 2 years. I vacated four, I don't know that long, but a long time. I vacated one of the lots and then another lot, and I believe because of the highway widening, I asked the council to vacate another lot. So we had 3. I was told it was going to be a very good, very nice restaurant that's going to be going there. That didn't happen. So now if you go out there right now, it literally, I've had conversation after conversation after conversation. This was back when, I don't think it was Kevin Davis, but I know Pat's leadership, now Mike Cooper, we something's got to be done to that thing. I mean, I don't know what is holding it up. He blames the parish blames him. I don't know why we even allowed this concrete plant to take place, but it looks, I mean, Highway 21 could be and should be and is, for the most part, a very pretty corridor, except for that industrial site that's supposed to be a shopping center. It's got a pizza shop and something else in it, a restaurant. But if you don't know what's there, it's got a big red sign that says pizza, huge red sign that says pizza. And there's no code enforcement going on. Anyway, that's the reason why I think that moratoriums are good, that we have to attempt to govern bad developers. And that's the reason that I've kind of kept it on that long. It's a trust issue, I guess, but that's kind of, and I've worked with the developers, and that's why we've been able to put some good things there. So I'm going to move, and I'll have another one, but when it comes up, I'll address where we're going with that one. But I'm going to move to remove, please.
Okay, there's a motion to remove by Mr. Dean. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Stefanczyk. Marty, I'm going to say Highway 21 looks pretty good, so if you had moratoriums on there to get where it's at sitting there right now, I think it worked very well. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote if you're in favor. Thank you. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Thank you. Number 6, ordinance calendar number 6363, ordinance to authorize the parish president to enter into utility service agreement for Mason Trade Subdivision, Ward 4, District 5. Mr. Taladano? Okay, motion by Mr. Toledano to adopt, second by Ms. Casabon. Seeing no questions, please vote. Thank you. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 7, ordinance calendar number 6364, ordinance to declare tax adjudicated property as surplus property and to proceed with the sale of same. Ward 9, District 14, Mr. T.J. Smith. Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Bender. Seeing no questions, please vote. Thank you. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 8, ordinance calendar number 6365, ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinance for designated septage, and sludge violations as property standards violations to allow for enforcement by Justice of the Peace and constables. Mr. Toledano? Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. All in favor, please vote. Thank you. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 9, ordinance calendar number 6366, ordinance to revote an unopened portion of Adams Boulevard and Dexter Drive, Lacombe, Ward 6, District 6.
Rick Swartz is here. I want to just introduce him with you. That's the second point. Judge Swartz, he's running for the
Okay, number 9, Ward 6, District 6, Mr. Tanner is not here. Okay, motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, second by Mr. O'Brien. And we have Miss Brittany Walker put in a call. Ma'am, would you come up? State your name and
Brittany Walker on behalf of C&W Brigade LLC.
please get a little.
Brittany Walker on behalf of C&W Brigade LLC. I was just here to see if you had any questions. I didn't want to take up too much of your time.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to come. Thank you. Okay, we had a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Number 10, ordinance calendar number 6368, ordinance to revote an unopened portion of F Street, Covington, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Fitzgerald? We have a motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, and we have a second by Ms. Casabon, and we have Ms. Allison Ruckrant. Allison?
Good evening. I'm Allison Bondurant here on behalf of the owners of the property, Three Rivers Holdings, on the adjacent landowners. Also here just to answer any questions and deal with any potential objections, but it doesn't appear we have any.
Well, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. Having no questions, please vote. Thank you. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Number 11, ordinance calendar number 6369, ordinance to authorize the parish president to acquire property for right-of-way maintenance and/or improvements, Ward 3, District 5. Mr. Toledano? Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Any questions? Seeing none, please vote. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 12, ordinance calendar number 6370, ordinance to declare multiple tax adjudicated properties as surplus properties and authorize advertising of sale of same. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Davis. Seeing no questions, please vote. Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing
Motion
none.
is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Number 13, ordinance calendar number 6371, ordinance authorizing the parish president to adopt a development agreement with JMAC Development for Oak Lawn Trade Subdivision, Ward 7, District 11. Mr. Stefanczyk. Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, second by Mr. Aaron. Please vote. Thank you. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Number 14, ordinance calendar number 6372, ordinance to authorize the parish president to acquire property comprising the Cardinal Cove portion of the Safe Haven campus, Ward 4, District 7. Mr. Jimmy Davis?
Hello? One question on this one. The 45 acres that to be purchased by the parish, that's for the new bypass road, is that correct?
No. You have to ask it.
The 45 acres is located near the rear of the property, and it's where Cardinal Cove, there are 6 buildings located on it. It was, so it is not for the bypass road. Mary, do you want to come up? Sure. Mary Burkell, she's the director for Safe Haven.
Good evening, everybody. So this part of the Safe Haven property was part of the 100 acres we sold to Pelican Pack in 2015. It did have those buildings on the property. They were planning to use it, but now have since decided that's not the best location for them. So we're purchasing that back. We're hoping to do some kind of residential program in those buildings because they're perfect for that. And with some of our housing issues, we think that'll be a great fit. And we have several organizations who are interested in operating out of those buildings.
District 1.
Correct. And
Thank
we're
you.
hoping to use grant funds, which you'll see on
Correct.
next month's agenda.
All right, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion approved. Mr. Dean, you had a question or a second on that one, sir? Yeah, you can go borrow one. I don't know, you can talk without one. You just keep it. You just keep it, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I have a question. I thought, because I was involved out there at one point, is this on? I thought we were going to be swapping.
Because of the
Because of North
funds
Lake?
that we bought that property on originally, we couldn't swap. So we already sold the property that they wanted back. And then now we're purchasing the property we want. So there was, Leslie, maybe you can explain, because I know it was a
what's the
financial
price?
So
issue.
the original property that we just sold back to them.
Yes.
Was purchased with drainage money. So we sold that to them, and then the funds returned to the drainage fund. And then this property, like you said, we're hoping to buy it with grant funding. So that's why we didn't do a swap. But the property we sold, I think, was 700,000?
Yes.
Something like that. I
Which is
think
more than
700,000.
what our appraisal is for this property.
And I don't want to upset anybody, but I'm not going to support this. I just think that once we get that safe haven thing going, and then we have a better plan, in my opinion, humble opinion, once we have a better plan for exactly what is going to, I'd like to hear, is it NAMI? Is it, who is it, VOA? Who's going to?
What my approach has been with Safe Haven.
$700,000 that we're.
No, I said it's less than that. I'm sorry, sir.
600?
I think it's about
I think it's
550.
around 550 is, I think, the
Yes.
appraised value for the 45 acres, for these 45 acres that we're looking to purchase.
Because the houses out that Cardinal Cove there is pretty dilapidated.
Right, and even when it was appraised, there's no value on the buildings themselves in the appraisal.
So if we were to do housing, I mean, I guess I'd like to know a better plan.
Sure.
What are we doing?
And let me tell you my plan. Like I said, I try everything with Safe Haven. The funding, as you know, with these kind of social services changes often. So I like to be flexible and have a lot of different options open to me. So when we are ready to go forward, if something falls through, I always have a backup. So when I looked at this property, actually, while the buildings are pretty dilapidated, a lot of it's cosmetic. The actual structures are in pretty good shape. Our facilities department has looked over them. Those structures were built in the 1970s, and they were evacuated during Katrina. The alcohol and drug unit that Florida Parishes operates was operating housing out there, for those of you who didn't know. So it was already built as a residential program. So that's why that fit works really well with those buildings. And who I've been talking to about it is quad vets. We don't have any veterans housing here in St. Tammany Parish. And the specialty courts are so important to us and to Safe Haven and just our overall structure. And they don't have any housing for those veterans in those programs because the closest housing is in Hammond, which is in a separate probation and parole district. So we really would like to get housing here so people who are in our programs can have a place. Plus, as we saw with Ed Lewis earlier today, the structure for veterans is huge here. And I'm hoping veterans have a lot of substance and mental issues, and I would like to make sure we have a place for them here in St. Tammany to receive those services, so that's part of my building block of building that up. But I've also spoken to, so NAMI, as you said, operates some residential homes, so does Stark Corporation, and so they're interested in, if that situation falls through, they have some interest in it. We've also talked to the state for their probation and parole for reentry programs. They're coming out with more grants because of that, trying to reduce recidivism and trying to find housing for people after. So those are kind of three options I've looked into thus far.
Is it under a time restraint? Could we postpone a month and then ask some questions?
I'm looking to our grants director because it's grants funding.
And what if it doesn't? What if you don't get the grant? Then where's it going to come from?
It's we're looking at CDBG funding. So it's funding we already have that we're applying to it, but you guys have to approve the use of that funding before we could go through the actual sale.
I mean, all I'm asking is just a little bit more, a lot more information, actually.
I just want to make sure that I'm not saying the incorrect thing, that's why.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as the grant funding, we have the grant funding. It's part of our entitlement funding, our annual allocation. So we have a 5-year consolidated plan, and we put in plans to HUD. And so HUD has already approved the funding to go to the Safe Haven campus, and this is part of that. So it's approved. There are some steps we have to take for the acquisition itself. We're working on the environmental for the whole campus. So there are some steps we still have to take, but there's no deadline per se on the funding itself. But we do have a timeliness test with HUD, and this will help us get to that point because COVID sort of slowed us down on some of the other programming we could do. So, but we can work through that, hopefully. But this would have been a help for that, to get towards that test that we have with HUD, because we had that programmed in to do it. But other than that, we don't really have an official, we won't lose the money, and it is allocated to the project.
So is there, and I apologize, I mean, whoever, I don't, who made the motion? Jenny, did you? Okay. Would it upset things if we postponed a month and we discuss things? Because I'm not going to support it. I can just tell you, because I know too much about that place, so that whole acreage. So.
Will it upset things as far as our HUD funding?
Yeah. 1 month.
Which means we wouldn't be able to close on the property until August? Is that what I'm, right?
But you have the money, you can write a check now?
I have the money.
Okay.
But no, I still have to go through steps, and I can continue to go through the steps that I'm going through without the approval in the budget. But I would need the budget approved. I would have to work through it. But it won't make huge waves, I don't think, at this point. I think COVID saved us from that a little bit. But if so, we would have to do something at the July meeting. We could maybe do an off the floor if it becomes a serious issue. I mean, that's the only thing I can say. Right now, I don't have any word from HUD as to whether they're going to extend our timeliness or not, and this was part of that, obviously a big chunk of it, but we have other things going in place that I think will help it. But if it becomes an emergency, we would have, whether we would lose funding or not, we would have to put it as an off the floor in July. If they want to discuss it. I mean, I don't want to make decisions for anyone. I'm just giving you the facts on the funding.
We're taking a chance of losing the funding, as long as you realize we take a chance of losing the opportunity.
Yeah, we would have to, if it became an emergency and HUD tells me that I can't extend, the deadline on timeliness, I would have to put an emergency off the floor in July, and we would have to vote on it then, and it would become an emergency, a true funding with HUD entitlement emergency, because we would lose our annual allocation going forward for other programs.
So would it be an issue with the council if we had to do an emergency meeting? We'll just have to do an emergency meeting on the issue. That way Marty can get a little time to get his concerns addressed. But if it comes up, it looks like this is going to be an issue with getting the money. You got an issue with having an emergency meeting, Marty, and bringing this up?
I think Mike, did you have something? Mr.
Yes, I've got them. Upon taking office, I made a commitment to continue the legacy of past President Pat Brister in this Safe Haven project. And this is part of the overall plan in moving that project forward. We have, and this council has made a commitment to carry the legacy of Safe Haven as we move forward. And with a full-time director managing this project, we have, in the past 4.5 months, have come a far way in our investment in Safe Haven that has already been made. And I would urge this council to move forward with this. Thank you, Mr. President. Marty, and then
I guess
Mr.
my
Bender.
response to that would be, in my opinion, Safe Haven is that one building that just got renovated. Because you have 38 acres of a psych hospital, you have Start that has the group homes on the left, and then you had Cardinal Cove that was going to be swapped with the rec district for land on north Lake.
Nature Center.
Yeah, the Nature Center. And then now, we're going to be spending upwards of $500,000, and I get it, it's a grant and all that kind of stuff. I guess I'd like to see more of a plan, and I don't mean to be a jerk about it, I never have been, but I really have some concerns. When you first got elected, you and I sat at Starbucks, and I told you my concerns about that whole thing. And still supporting what Pat's dream was, and Pat's dream was that Safe Haven thing, and I think that's come about, and it will probably be a good thing. So I don't want to rain on it or anything like that. I just have real big concerns about the direction of the property.
Do you mind if I say just one thing real
Yeah.
quick? I feel that Safe Haven is a lot more than just the crisis receiving center. To me, it's the entire campus. It's NAMI residential programs that have apartments. It's the START apartments group homes. It's the 3 alternative schools that are on campus. It's the Florida Parish's Human Services, they have 2 rehabs. This is just building out, continuing to build out those services. Why I find this is a great opportunity, and I've recommended us going forward with this. This is something we've been talking about for years. How do we get that property back? And this is the opportunity kind of presented itself now to be able to do that, to go back and purchase that property. I find residential is the thing I think all of us hear, and I hear myself on a daily basis. People need housing. People need emergency housing to get through, and it's very difficult to find. So when I had an opportunity to, there's already a building there, and we can go and renovate it, that to me is a great opportunity to do that. And so that's why I encourage you. I have a lot of plans for the campus, and I'm still kind of new in my directorship there. And I hope to meet, and my plan is to meet with all of you to kind of give you what I hope to continue the original vision, in line with the original vision, but to expand. And I understand your sustainability concerns, because I have those too, to make sure that as we move forward, it is an independent, financially sustainable campus, which I believe it can be. We just need to we need to get through a couple more steps to get there, and I have ideas of how we can get us there. So I hope when, we can start setting up those times to give you all that opportunity to hear all that.
Well, and I have you, Jerry, and I agree 100% because I sit on there and I know the enthusiasm, and I will say, Mike, that yes, you have made that commitment, and I know you're moving forward with that, and it may be this one area that Pat had, but I know she was never one that didn't have a major vision. Okay, and this could be the same type of thing. But anyway, that's just my take. Mr. Bender, and then I'll get you, Steve.
Okay, so Mary, you answered one of my questions. Well, you raised one of my questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know nearly what Marty knows about Safe Haven. However, you brought up a key point, sustainability.
Yes, sir.
So grant money is fine,
Mhm.
but when it's used and this housing is built, or you all, is Safe Haven going to be able to maintain these buildings and all of the costs that are involved in that? Because it's not free.
Absolutely not.
This is free grant money
Mhm.
that whatever we build becomes needing to be sustained, managed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, okay? So you think you have a funding source in place to do that?
The
John, I got a
vision-
question for you too.
The vision and kind of the plan we've been going on is just like the CRC. The parish can identify those capital funds, and we can find through grant funds or leveraging different opportunities to find that and that investment. And then because we are not clinicians, we are not running services. I think Marty understands, we as a parish are not a healthcare facility. And I think that's why I'm attracted to this project so much and why I love it so much, because I feel like it's government at its best, because we're doing what we can do really well. And that's roads and infrastructure and working with those grants. We have a fabulous grants department. So that's what we do. It's kind of that theory, if you build it, they will come. We're going to build it, and then the operators come, and then they pay us rent to have the operation on campus, and that's what helps us, gives us that sustainability of continuing with the campus.
Okay. So if I could, Jean, one question on the grants. So the grant money that you have to make this purchase, or to let our parish president make the purchase, okay? Is that grant money specifically dedicated to this property, or are there other uses potentially for this grant money? If the answer is there are other potential uses, do you see this property as the best use?
Wow, that's a loaded question. So I will take it very slowly in responding.
Okay.
So the grant money, first and foremost, has been approved by HUD for, in our consolidated plan, we do a needs assessment, which is, we go out into the community, we find out what the needs are, and then once we have those needs, we establish what funding we already have currently to meet those needs. And the needs that aren't addressed go into our 5-year consolidated plan, and our annual money that we get from HUD, which is approximately $1 million every year, goes towards those unmet needs. And so we have 5 years to meet those needs, and HUD approves it. It all goes on public notice. And then each year we have a timeliness test, so we have to spend our money in a certain amount of time in order to keep getting the money going forward. So we are at risk right now. This is what we're talking about, the risk where we would have to go up the floor to not meet our timeliness test. And there are several reasons for that. Part of it was COVID. We have programs that we couldn't run because we weren't operating at full capacity. So that's one thing. So, but in our consolidated plan, housing is one of the criteria which this would meet. And then secondly, yes, it is for Safe Haven specifically.
So it's either used for Safe Haven or it goes away.
It does not go away. We would have to submit to HUD a reason why we did not use it for Safe Haven or for housing, and we would have to do a substantial amendment to them to move the money to something else.
So then you agree that this would be the best use? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to
I
understand.
cannot say that it is the best or worst use of the funding. I can say that it has been approved by the federal agency as an eligible expense with the needs that we did for our community needs assessment. HUD agrees that this is a eligible use of the funding, but
Okay.
for housing and for Safe Haven.
Thank you.
However, if there's another use within that same category, that could happen. but it's not specific to Cardinal Cove, I'll say that, but it is specific to housing, and
Gotcha.
it is specific to Safe Haven's campus.
Thank you.
I don't know if that answers your
No,
question.
that did.
Thank you, ma'am. Steve?
I mean, I've been out there a few times looking at the place, but I still don't have a clue as to what everything they do, and Marty's the one that showed me around when I was out there. I do believe that he probably has the best understanding of anybody up here at this table that we're sitting at, and if he has concerns about it, I'd like to look at him. Now, if he asks about a 1-month delay, if this ordinance is tabled till next month or postponed till next month, it's going to come up for adoption next month anyhow. There will be no emergency ordinance required or anything like that. So I would suggest that we postpone it 1 month, give us a chance to get some of the answers that he's wanting.
Okay, well, as I sit here right now, we had a motion by Mr. Davis, and I did not see a second as of right now, so there is no second. So, hold on one sec. Is there a second to do it? No, I did not see a second as of right now, so, Mr. Dean? Okay, you want to make a motion to postpone until the next meeting? Is that correct? Am I correct?
I'm having a hard time. You ain't speaking into a mic.
Okay. Okay. You have a motion by Mr. Dean and a second by Mr. Stefanczyk to postpone till the next meeting. The only thing I'd like to say is we need to, whatever information you can disseminate to the council tomorrow so that we can all read on it. And if for some reason, as we go forward tomorrow or the next day, you find out that there's a reason we could lose the whole thing, I would like you to let me know, because I will call a special meeting if I need to discuss this topic.
Thank you, sir.
Okay?
And I'd like to, if I could, Mr. Chair, if I could request a meeting
Yes, sir.
with you all?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Like
Yes, sir.
within the next week or so, I'll call.
Perfect,
Thank you.
perfect. Ms. Casabon, I think you had your hand up, man. I might have passed you.
I was just going to ask Marty on the concerns of the usage or concerns of owning the property and maintaining the property. That's what I'm kind of confused
Without
about.
getting into a whole lot, because some of it is, I mean, I just don't want to get into in a public meeting. But I have a question about the whole 200 acres. And so are we pigeonholing ourselves? I'm okay. I've always envisioned the place, this is just strictly me. This is coming from nowhere else. I've always envisioned the place, and I'm talking 25, 30 years down the road, as knocking down all those old buildings and making a nice medical complex that could possibly have some VA homes or something like that. That's when I say about the sustainability, and I don't want to get into a whole lot, but it's 200 acres. And then we own about, the parish has about 1,500 acres north of that. So it's just, it has, like a residential treatment program there for kids. It's got 2 alcohol and drug programs there. The buildings were built in the 40s. There are chillers that cost a couple of $100,000 a piece, all that kind of stuff. So that's my concern. Yeah. So and I'm not against it, because I was with Pat Brister all along, every day of the whole thing. So, I mean, I get it, but I just have questions, and I know COVID or whatever, I don't have any answers.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to commit $500,000.
Right.
It could be used somewhere else, I don't know.
Okay.
And Mr. Dean, I very much respect your opinion, and I want to say I can't wait to bring you into Quad A, our renovation that we did, because I think I know Mr. Cooper has been there already, when you go into that space, it's like a brand-new space, and it's a brand-new breath of fresh air, and there's some things in that building that were built so good that I don't care how much money you spend now, you cannot build it that way. So I'm open and willing, and I want to give the message and the vision of Safe Haven and get all of y'all's input. So I'm very welcome to this opportunity,
Great.
and I'm glad it came about so that we can do that.
Right. And my suggestion is you set up a time and let Mr. Terry Hand know, and whatever council members can get there, they will.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's a very important thing, but I agree with Marty, if we can wait a month, but if there's an emergency, you need to let us know. Ms. Kavanaugh?
I was just going to say that whatever plans, I guess I'm old school, that if we had an opportunity to get this property, whether the buildings are on it or not, and if we'd have to tear them down, it's just an opportunity to own this property that would be connected. And I think all the other would work itself out. And it's just that we would have ownership of it and, within the parish and, and then we'll work out
I
everything
agree
else.
100%. I think the best thing to do, as they said, is at least look at it for 30 days. If it's not going to
Okay.
hurt it, and
As
we
long
get
as it doesn't hurt
if we
it.
get the information, then we can move forward with it. And so, hearing that, no more questions, there's a motion to postpone for 30 days. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed?
Motion passes.
2 nay.
11 yeas, 1 nay, 1 absent.
Thank you.
I've listened to these two very fine ladies make a great presentation. Listen to Mr. Dean also speak. I wonder if the chair would consider appointing a committee of the council with our focus mission to meet with them and gather some of that data.
Well,
So that we don't let that time slip up on us and we haven't done the real careful review, so.
Well, for me, to me, I think it's very, I think they will provide the council. I would like to see everyone on the council rather than just 2 or 3 of us go there. And I think she'll send us that, and they'll work on that starting tomorrow. And it's incumbent on the council members to go look at it and investigate it and see it. So I'm going to leave it at that way unless somebody has a motion to that effect. Mr. Davis? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is my district, District 7. Please contact me.
Correct.
I mean, even though I was just highly elected about this has sprung up and, this is all new to me as well. So please come out. I'll be glad to come out there every day.
So my idea is, and y'all tell me, I'll set up a couple times in the next couple
Yes,
weeks
ma'am.
where I actually meet on site, because to see it is very different than to see the map.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'll do a couple different times, evening, afternoon, even, later in
Yes.
the day, depending on your schedule, what is best, and I'll get those to Mr. Hand, and then he can let you know when I'll be there, and we can tour and get the map, and
right.
I'll send out all the information about this particular project tomorrow
Okay.
via email.
And I do understand how this housing was part of the original master plan. And that would help you with this. This piece of property would help you. So that's why I'm actually in favor of it, to be honest. So, anyway,
But it's
thank you.
fair, one thing,
Yes, sir.
he hit the nail on the head. He should be the first phone call.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll go to every one of the meetings.
Great. We'll invite you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next one. Thank you, Marty. You have to stay a little later now. Number 15, ordinance calendar number 6373, ordinance to authorize the parish president to acquire a lot lower W-15 area drainage project, Ward 8, District 9, District 13. Mr. Mike Smith, Mr. Terry?
This is part of the W-15 project. It's a lot that there's nothing on. It's in between 2 houses. It's a lateral, it's just a simple purchase to improve drainage in the area. So I'd like to make a motion to accept.
Okay, motion to accept. Mr. Canulet? Second. Second by Mr. Canulet. All in favor? Please vote. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Thank you. Number 16, ordinance calendar 6374, ordinance amending Parish Unified Development Code to add private nonprofit animal services. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald to move forward, second by Mr. Toledano. Please vote. Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Thank you. Number 17, ordinance calendar number 6375, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 5 acres from A-1 and RO to NC-5 and RO, Ward 2, District 6. Mr. Tanner? Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Toledano. Please vote. Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing
Motion
none.
is unanimous, 2 absent.
Number 18, ordinance calendar number 6376, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 5.2 acres from HC-2 to HC-3, Ward 8, District 12. Mr. Bender?
Yes, sir, I'll make a motion, but can I make a comment after that?
Of course you can.
Sure. I'll move it.
Motion by Mr. Bender, second by Mr. Dean. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want my colleagues to know that this is an ideal location, these next two, and this change in the zoning puts it in line with the zoning that is needed at this location. Working with Ross Liner, with Planning Department, and with Ross communicating with our parish president, with us getting the landowner and a new company that has never located in Louisiana. This will be their first location in Louisiana. It was their first choice. We had to jump through some hoops, but I have to say, it was a pleasure working with Mr. Liner and the administration, with Mr. Hand. We even brought in Chris from Tammany Corp., and with the landowner and the company's CEO, who we had on speakerphone. So this is a new business with a specialty involved in it. They've already located there, but we had an agreement in place that they would agree to this upzoning, which we need to match up to the area. So this finalizes it, and I think overall it was a good cooperative agreement. So I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. Motion by Mr. Bender, second, please, by Mr. Dean. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. Anybody opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Which one are we on?
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Which one are we on next? What number?
The mic's gone.
19.
We're on 19.
The next item on our agenda is item number 19, ordinance calendar number 6377, an ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 2.15 acres from HC2 to HC3. That's Ward 8, District 12. Mr. Bender?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so this is simply the second parcel that needed this same that I just repeated, okay? So I'm not going to, that I just said, I'm not going to repeat it, so I'll make the motion.
Thank you very much. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? All in favor, please? Anybody opposed?
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent, or 1 absent, sorry.
Number 20, Mike.
Okay, thank you. Which one was that, right?
That was 19. You're on
Thank
20.
Okay, number 20, ordinance calendar number 6378, ordinance amending the Parish Unified Development Code to add the definition of automotive sales. Mr. Davis.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Davis to approve, second by Mr. Canulet. Please vote. Okay.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Thank you. Number 21, ordinance calendar number 6379, ordinance to remove Stonebrook subdivision from the roads and drainage inventories, Ward 4, District 10. Ms. O'Brien. Motion by Ms. O'Brien, second by Mr. Stavancic. Please vote. Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. 22, ordinance calendar number 6380, ordinance to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget, capital assets amendment number 9. Mr. Fitzgerald? Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Toledano. Please vote. Thank you. Any opposed?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 23, ordinance calendar number 6381, ordinance to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets amendment number 10. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Ms. Casabon. Please vote. Thank you.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay. Ordinance number 638, is that the one I just did? Yeah. Which one I just did, 82 or 83?
82. You need to do 82.
Okay. Ordinance calendar number 6383, they all look the same. Ordinance calendar 6383, ordinance to amend the 2020 capital. 82? Okay. Okay. Ordinance calendar number 6382, ordinance to amend the 2020 operating budget, amendment number 7. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote. Thank you.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 25, ordinance calendar number 6383, ordinance to amend 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 11. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Canulette. Please vote. Thank you.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 6384, ordinance to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 12. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. T.J. Smith. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. 27, ordinance calendar number 6385, ordinance to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 13. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Jimmy Davis. Please vote. Thank you.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 28, ordinance calendar number 6386, ordinance to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 14. Mr. Fitzgerald? Yes, sir.
Remarks right here.
Yes, sir.
I know we're going down through these amendments to the budget. I'd just like to, I know that we know on the council that we've gone over all these amendments several times in public forums. So it's not as if we are just powering through and nobody understands what's going on.
That's
And if there's any questions, certainly for the public, feel free, but that's all. So move.
That is correct. Thank you, sir. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. J. Gary. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 29, ordinance calendar number 6387, ordinance to amend the 2020 capital grants budget, amendment number 2. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Smith. Please vote. T.J. Smith.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 30, ordinance calendar number 6388, ordinance to amend the ordinance CS number 19-405, the 2019 grant budget. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote. You sure can.
Ms. Long, because this one is rather lengthy, could you just give us whatever brief explanation you can give us of this 2019 budget changes?
Yes, sir. Councilman Bender, if you recall, throughout the year in 2019, we would amend the grant budget by resolution. And one of the things that the ordinance says is that year end, we will do a recap of all those resolutions that we passed.
Okay.
So this is a year-end recap for grants. And if you look at the administrative comment, it talks about that we rolled over, I think it was $61 million from 2018 into 2019. During 2019, we received $17 million in new awards for a total of $78 million. And then a couple items later on the agenda, you'll see where now that 2019 is over, now we're rolling it over into 2020, the balances that are available. I think it's $67 million.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote. Thank you.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 31, ordinance calendar number 6389, ordinance to amend the 2020 operating budget, amendment number 8. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. Please vote. Thank you.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 32, ordinance calendar number 6390, ordinance to amend the 2020 operating budget, amendment number 9. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Mike Smith. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 33, ordinance calendar number 6391, ordinance to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 15. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Ms. Casabon. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 34, ordinance calendar number 6392, ordinance to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 16. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Jimmy Davis. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 35, ordinance calendar number 6393, ordinance to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 17. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Taladano. Please vote. Thank you.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 36, ordinance calendar number 6394, ordinance to amend the 2020 grants budget, amendment number 3. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Canulet. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Ordinance number 37, ordinance calendar number 6395, ordinance to amend the 2019 operating budget, amendment number 13. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Ms. Casabon. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Number 38, ordinance calendar number 6396, ordinance to amend the 2020 Grants Budget, Amendment Number 4. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Bender. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Let me just say one thing about what Mr. Fitzgerald said. We have discussed these numerous times, at least 3, maybe 4, I don't remember now. But anyway, it's not like we're moving through. And the only reason that I call him Mr. Fitzgerald to lead him off every time is he's chairman of the Finance Committee, and he's the one that's in charge of that. So anyway, I just wanted to say that also. Okay, we go to the off-the-floor agenda. Do I need to open it, ask for a vote? Okay. I need a motion and a motion to open the off-the-floor agenda. Motion by Mr. Bender, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. We need a unanimous vote to do that. Would you please vote?
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Thank you. Where's mine at? Yeah, make it disappeared. Okay, here we go. Number 2, resolution to authorize the parish president to execute an agreement with the state to obtain funding under the Carnera Virus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. Mr. Fitzgerald. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Ms. Casavant. Mr. President, would you like to make, somebody from administration would like to comment on that one?
Sure, I can.
Sure, please, go ahead. Leslie.
So, as you're aware, the state is making available funds under the CARE Act to local government units, of which the parish municipalities may all make requests for reimbursement for COVID-related expenses. So this will authorize the parish president to sign that funding agreement with the state, and then for us to file the application, so they will open up the claim portal where we can start filing claims. We could actually start filing claims earlier this week, but it takes a good bit of time and effort to put one together because you have to have everything documented, cancel checks, everything like that. So that is what several staff in my office are working on. Additionally, the way the act reads right now, or the legislation, is that there are certain government bodies within our parish who will have to file their claims through parish government. So we will be working on subrecipient agreements with those agencies, hospital service districts, if fire districts have expenses, things like that. Someone who doesn't have like parish-wide jurisdiction has to come through the parish. So, yes, rec districts,
That's one of the questions I was asking.
Sure.
So let me ask a question. This is the money that was provided to the state, and the state took their share of it, and the parish has theirs. Senate Bill 89, 189, or whatever.
I think it's 189, yes.
Yeah.
So it started
Anyway.
off, I think, at the federal government to the state at
Yes.
$1.8 billion,
Correct.
of which 45% they originally allocated for local governments, which was $811 million. And then I'm not sure if anything was passed today, but they had been discussing of that 811 million, of the 811, 300 would go to small businesses,
Correct.
and the remaining 511 would remain with local government units. And then it's being allocated out based on a formula of cases and population.
Okay. Now, is there a number yet that St. Tammany Parish could possibly be receiving as of right now, a dollar amount?
The state set forth the formula based on the population and the number of cases so far. They're just trying to set like a maximum. They're allocated about 30% of the funds so far. And for St. Tammany, all agencies who submit claims, the total available right now is $11 million.
Okay, so St. Tammany could possibly $11 million.
All agencies
Okay.
within our parish.
You
We're still
also-
working on our claim.
You also mentioned that fire districts, I'm assuming the fire districts, the police, the coroner, all these agencies will submit through the parish and to see if we meet that $11 million of.
Certain
funds that-
agencies can submit directly. The sheriff, the coroner, the assessor, the clerk of court, the district attorney, all those can submit on their own. And then the district courts, and then like we talked about, the special districts who aren't parish-wide, have to submit through parish government.
Okay. All right. And you all are working on that with those people, with those agencies that will submit through the parish government for that funding, so they'll have all that documentation?
Yeah, so we spoke with two of the larger agencies, Slidell Memorial and St. Tammany Parish Hospital, in the last 2 days, just to talk about how we were envisioning that their claims would look. So the plan is to use existing FEMA forms and stuff like that for putting claims together, because all the claims are going to go through the Governor's Office of Homeland Security, and that group is used to that format. And it also provides all the information you need, to document the expense. The other thing that we're doing is, like I said, we're working with the Civil DA Department on developing a sub-recipient agreement, and we've also drafted instructions, because we want to put together a little package that we give to these agencies, just to kind of say, okay, well, this is what we're looking at from you. We're going to sign an agreement with each other. We're going to need tax IDs, tax identification numbers, so we can make payments. But the state is still, the rules are still kind of fluid. And they're looking at how they're going to make the disbursements out, either through the parish government or directly to those agencies based on their claims.
Okay. Any
So-
other Mr. Mike Smith?
Point of clarification, and under these rules so far, in this particular package, sales taxes are not included, right? This is just.
Lost revenues
Okay.
are not eligible for,
Okay.
for a claim.
Right, but possibly maybe in the next one or the next one. We don't know. I mean, I know Cassidy's trying to get some of that passed, but, okay, another point, okay. So is your claim going to be based on actual cost, or is it just going to be some kind of lump sum per patient?
No,
Okay,
it's
okay.
based on actual costs, and we have to document each cost, if employees' time, and then other expenditures, we have to provide canceled checks. And so it'll be a very thorough claim.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Canulet?
Les, do you know if, is this going to incorporate every COVID patient that came to the parish, not just from the parish? Because I know in certain areas, Oscar picked a spot and then I went to one spot. I truly believe that we could get people from out of this parish, and we're going to be able to recuperate the cost for those.
So the allocation, like you said, is based on the number of cases and population. We have not validated that number. The number they said would change throughout, but it is something that we're going to be speaking with them about, like where did the case number come from? But it's been used across the whole state to allocate out to all 64 parishes.
Thank you. Mr. Bender?
So for the council and for Ms. Leslie, a question will be coming, Ms. Leslie. So to make sure that we have our numbers correct, originally, there was $1.8 billion, as Ms. Leslie said, by the federal government allocated with, according to my conversation with Congressman Scalise 2 months ago, was going to go 45% to local governments and entities, all of the ones within St. Tammany Parish. So we have to be clear, this is not just St. Tammany Parish government. It's also the cities, the towns, the villages, the hospitals, whatever, okay?
Yes.
Under the original formula, we would have received, as a total parish, with all of these other entities, $40 million.
Did you say 40 million?
Yes.
I had estimated about 36, but yeah.
Yes. So besides reducing local government shares from 8, 10 to 5, 10, or 11, the population formula, which would have been beneficial for the parishes that had more population, and we're the 4th most populated in the state right now, barely ahead of Cato, and we have the 5th highest number of cases and deaths. The state changed the formula to 30% population and 70% cases. Now, Leslie, I'm only asking for a double check from you on this, okay? If we took the 800 million and reduced it to 500 million, that's not a 50% reduction, but it's about a 40% reduction.
I think it's 47%.
47%
I think
reduction.
or 37%, I think, because I said that if it had dropped down, we were going to get 63% of what we originally were going to get.
Yeah, it's a
so
little less than
37%.
40%. So 63% of about 36 to 40 million would have been roughly
22?
$24 million. So considering that we have both population and cases because of our population, and deaths because of our population, because Orleans is number 1, Jefferson's number 2, East Baton Rouge is number 3, Cato's number 4, and we're number 5. The 5 most populated parishes in this state are in the top 5. I don't understand how, and I'm going to ask, how did we get the calculation? Were you given a number? Why aren't we at, as a total parish, $23 million instead of $11 million?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, the 11 million, and I probably wasn't very clear. So right now, what they're making available for the first claims is 30% of the, originally it was 30% of the total 811. So they said $811 million. Right now, we're going to make available 30% of that number.
Wait, of 811 or of the 511?
It originally started of the 811. So
Okay.
when they put out the $11 million formula for St. Tammany, that was based on 30% of the 811. So they took 30% of 811, came out to like 242 million. Is that right? Yeah. And then they divided that between all 64 parishes based on the formula. And I can get you the.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But yeah,
As
so I think the whole idea was we're not going to make the entire 811 million available right now. We're going to release up to 30% of that number.
But wait, we're not
This is the
getting
state.
811 anymore.
Excuse me?
We're not.
I still think we're going to, even at the reduction because of the $300 million reduced for small businesses, if the caseload and the population, did not change, they're going to adjust that over time based on the cases. We would get the $22 or $23 million.
Okay, now.
Based on the 500.
My numbers agree
Yeah.
with yours now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last question, Mr. Chairman, is this. You also know, or we need to know, that the federal government's plan in the CARES Act gave the governments, the local governments, and state government through December 31st of this year to come up with their documentation so as to be eligible for this money. The state reduced the timeline for local governments from December the 31st to September the 30th.
Okay.
If we don't have our documentation in by September the 30th, their amendment clearly says any documentation after September 30th will not be considered. So here's my question. Can we get all of our documentation from the hospitals, from us, from the other entities? Can the coroner, can the sheriff, can we get all of this in by September 30th?
Yes.
Great.
I mean, I talked to the hospitals today. They have been already working on their claims. So right now, the first window that is open is that you may file claims for costs incurred and paid from March 1st through April 30th, and we have until June 15th. Well, the first window is till June 15th. That's what you may submit. You can't submit like May costs right now. You can only submit March and April. If you don't make the June 15th deadline, you can still submit. You're just not in the first window.
But
And so,
the real deadline is September the 30th.
correct.
After that, we can't do anything. So
Yeah, and I have
you
to go-
think we can
yeah.
hit the September 30th deadline?
Yeah, we should have no problem doing that. We've already got part of our claim done, but we still have to QA it and pull together, all the documentation
I
that's
don't think
attached.
any of us are surprised, Miss Leslie.
And I think, and I talked to the hospitals, I mean, they've got staff dedicated to it, of course, it's many millions of dollars, so.
Yeah. Well, thank you so
So
much.
we think the larger claims will all get in. I think they'll all get in. And we have staff. I assigned, I think, 4 to 5 of our staff
Okay.
are available to help with subrecipients or putting together, documentation for claims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is any other questions on that? Mr. Davis?
Ms. Leslie. I attended a webinar that discussed all this about getting refunds and stuff like this from the state and everything from the federal government. On those checks that you wrote for all the coronavirus things, in the subject on the check, did you put for coronavirus? Because let me tell you, from what I was told, if you can document anything with the word corona on it, it's going to really pass well. That's what I was told. So, I'm not saying to expand, but I'm just saying.
Oh, there's the microphone. Well, if the check doesn't say it, we are very careful about every expense that is related to COVID comes through the accounting system through a couple people. So we will reject it back and keep asking for documentation that actually specifically lists the purpose and how it's related to coronavirus. So all for the purpose of, we've been through this pretty often on FEMA claims. So we're always trying to make sure that there's always some kind of reference back to how this relates to COVID or our response to COVID. So we're going to submit everything we can. I will tell you that the Legislative Auditor's Office has auditing authority, so they're going to have to audit on the back end, they said, because there's just going to be so many claims coming in. But that's part of the funding agreement. Of course, it says if they determine something's ineligible, we're responsible to pay it back. But we don't intend on submitting anything that we don't feel can meet the eligibility tests.
Right, and then also we were told that once they review this, obviously they can throw them away if they want. They don't have to, just because you put something in there, they don't have to accept it.
No, they're going to make a review.
But they have,
But I think they're going to ask
They have
questions.
to give you an explanation on why it wasn't accepted, is what I'm saying. If I
You have
turn
no
in
appeal
18
authority
receipts and
here.
they accept 16, I probably wouldn't have a problem. But if I turn in 18, they only accept 10, I want to know why.
Well, I mean, we would definitely press for that answer, and we would ask for, a review. And I think we have enough relationships between the Legislative Auditor's Office, who I've already been talking with probably on at least once or twice daily. And they're getting information from us because sometimes they can't get in touch with some of the other offices. So we're actually sending them sometimes the instructions that we're receiving, so we're communicating with them. And so I think we have an open line of communication, so I don't really see an issue.
Good, thank you.
Okay, seeing nothing. Leslie, I just need to check one thing. The fire districts, are they going to submit through the parish or on their own?
That's the way the instructions read. We have not heard from any fire districts yet, and I do think that they may be, I have a feeling that they are speaking with the governor's office or with Commissioner Darden's office.
What does the law say now?
The law says that they will file through us.
Okay, they will file through us. I'm going to make a suggestion to you, because we're running low. They know nothing about that after the conversation I had today. And I would suggest that tomorrow, somebody from the administration or yourself would call them rather than waiting and then trying to do everything at the end. I just wanted to ask that question.
I will, and we just, that was kind of really specific. Everyone was able to submit, Mr. Davis was on the phone with us that day, questions. And so on June 1st or 2nd, one day this week, they came out with the answers to a lot of these questions that everybody was submitting, and that was one of the questions for them to specifically list different agencies or districts within parishes that have to file through the parish. And so things were a little different than sometimes what they told us over the phone that day on that big WebEx that we did. There was 300 to 500 people on the call, I think. across the whole state.
I would just give him a heads up.
I sure will.
Anyway, okay? And the last thing I have to say is I want to thank Mr. Bender. Jerry's been working on this for a very long time, and I just want to say thank you so the council knows that also. Okay? Okay, we had a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, please vote. Thank you. Seeing no opposed.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Number 3, resolution to appoint Dooley Crawford and Jody Falcon to the Board of Directors for Recreation District Number 7, District 6, 7, 9, and 11. Mr. Stefancic?
To approve both of these to the rec board. It'll finally give us 5 people, which will be enough to hold a meeting.
Okay,
And we
thanks.
still got a couple more slots open that we'll do later on, but this finally gives us a quorum, so.
Perfect. Motion by Mr. Stefancic, second by Mr. Jimmy Davis. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent.
Thank you. Seeing nothing else. Mr. Toledano, you wanted to have the floor for a second.
Thank you very much. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge one of our great judges in this district, Judge Rick Swartz, who has stayed through this exciting meeting the entire time and has literally been on the edge of his chair. Judge Swartz is a candidate and a great candidate for our First Circuit Court of Appeals. Judge Swartz has traveled today from Kentwood all the way to the St. Tammany Parish Consular Chambers. We're very pleased to have him here, and I want to, what's that?
Right. You can't,
I'm sorry.
you can't talk about the politics, but you can introduce him.
Thank you very much. Anyway, we're very pleased to have him here, and I just want to acknowledge his attendance.
Let me just say one thing. The election that we were supposed to have on April 4th has been postponed to July 11th. So please keep that in mind. And Ms. O'Brien, I know she's very concerned about that too, because she's running, all the political parties have elections on that date, RPECs, DPECs, and the presidential preference primary. So the Court of Appeal election will be that date, July 11th. Please try to get everyone to go vote that day.
Thank you, Judge. Good luck. Okay, no other questions? A motion by Mr. Fitzgerald and second by Ms. Casabon to adjourn. Thank you very much. And no, we don't have to. It was passed during without consent. Mr. Dean, you sitting right there?
Just so I can watch you.
I can't believe that. Yeah. Who picked those? Who picked those seats? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the St. Tammany Parish Council meeting, Thursday, June 4th, 2020. St. Tammany Government Complex. This is our first meeting, official meeting with the new setup, and it looks pretty full, and that's great. And I know we'll be expanding, hopefully, in another few weeks, and we can have some extra people, but I think this will work very well. Want to welcome everyone for taking the time to come. It's a little difficult speaking with these masks, but we'll do our best, and we'll kind of go from there. So what I'd like to do is call on Councilman Toledano to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. For the invocation, I'm going to ask Councilwoman Ms. O'Brien if she would honor us with the introduction, please.
Absolutely. I am honored to introduce Pastor Donald Burris of the Goodwill Baptist Church of Mandeville. He's a native of Folsom, Louisiana. He actually is the owner of Donald Burris Landscape Group also. He's been involved in so many different things. Before he says our prayer, I'd like for you to know just how much he does for and with our community. He's a chaplain with the St. Tammany Parish Coroner's Office. He was an alderman city council for 4 years in Folsom, recognized as one of the real men of St. Tammany Parish in 2016, an active board member of the Home Mission Board of Louisiana Home and Foreign Missions Baptist State Convention. His community service includes involvement with the Samaritan Center Food Bank, the Donald Burris Christmas Pals, Boys and Girls Club, Community Gardening, American Red Cross, City of Mandeville, St. Tammany elected officials, St. Tammany Wellness Center, St. Tammany Law Enforcement, Safe Harbor Domestic Abuse Program, Drug and Alcohol Recovery Program, and Trouble Youth Programs, and more. So we are very honored to have him with us today. Please welcome Pastor Donald Burris.
Thank you for this opportunity. Before I say the prayer, there's something that I want to say that's very important. First, you all honor everybody else. I keep up with you on Facebook, through the paper, but tonight I want to say thank you guys for what you all have done during these last few months of the COVID-19. As I travel the community from Folsom to Slidell on a daily basis, the guidelines that you all have set forth to this community, to this parish, have been great. People are practicing the guidelines that you all have set forth. I want to say thank you for your untiring efforts for what you all have done. President Mike Cooper, I am very grateful. During the time that I served with the council in Folsom, you was the president of the St. Tammany Municipal Association, and you made sure that I was the vice president. And as you have moved to a higher level, I want to say thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Martha Casaban. We do community outreach on a monthly or every 2 months that you all call and ask if there's a need in the community for the people that I'm around, that you need to come visit or you need to participate. Maureen, thank you for always reaching out beyond the call of duty to be concerned about your constituents. Thank you all once again. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity to be here. We pray and ask your blessings on our president of the parish, this council, and in the times that we're living in now. We want to pray for encouragement for our president, this council in their respective districts. Continue to give them encouragement in their leadership. I pray for their health and strength. And most of all, that we have compassion for our brothers and our sisters. And in a time like this, I pray for peace. We give all of these blessings in Jesus' name. Bless this parish, and God bless the United States of America. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll for me, please?
Mr. Dean? Mr. Fitzgerald? Ms. Casabon? Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Tanner? Mr. Toledano?
Present.
Mr. Lorino?
Present.
Mr. Canulet? Mr. M. Smith? Ms. O'Brien? Mr. Stefanczyk? Mr. Bender? Mr. Airy? Mr. T.J. Smith? You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the meeting itself, I think it would be very appropriate to make a statement about the current situation that we're now dealing with as a nation. And I'm very honored to be able to do this on behalf of the entire council that is present here tonight. So if you would mind, indulge with me, I'd like to read a statement that I put together. On behalf of the entire parish council, I'd like to take a moment to address the tragic situation that began in Minneapolis last week and has impacted people across our country and the rest of the world. I cannot begin to understand how difficult this time is for American citizens that have to worry about racism and police brutality every day. All I can say is that my heart and this council's heart goes out to every one of them, especially the family and friends of George Floyd. When we see police brutality and violent protesters, we need to remember that there are many, many more people that we do not see. We have law enforcement officers all across the country putting their lives on the line every day and serving their communities with honor and dignity. And we have law-abiding Americans, citizens, trying to make their voices heard. It is important for all of us to be part of the finding of a peaceful way forward from here. I believe the process of healing and change must start with each of us. And when we truly listen and hear each other, we will finally be able to meet in the middle and create true peace and prosperity. As the citizens of our region come together in solidarity, peacefully supporting one another, we stand with them. That's the statement from St. Tammany Parish Council members that are here. What I'd like to do is look to my right. Is anyone would like to comment? Anyone on the left?
I join in your comments and thank you for them. They were very well said.
Thank you. Anyone on the left? Mr. Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a brief statement that we'd like to read into everybody's hearing in reference to the same subject. Last week, America reached a grim milestone of 100,000 lives stolen by the coronavirus, while at the same time the breath of George Floyd was being stolen by another virus called racism. In broad daylight, for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, 4 Minneapolis policemen callously and cruelly asphyxiated Mr. Floyd using a chokehold, which led to a lack of blood flow to Mr. Floyd's brain and subsequently his death. Lamentably, Mr. Floyd's state-sponsored murder was not an isolated incident. it was but the latest chapter in a centuries-long history of white supremacist violence that has taken the lives of far too many black people. This moment demands that each of us, especially those of us who are not black, act with great urgency in the defense of black lives, to support the work of ending police brutality and white supremacy, and to bring forth a world and an American order in which black people are truly free and liberated. There are many ways of participating in this work, and here is something you can do now that will make an immediate impact. And I invite your attention to 2 Chronicles 7 and 14, when the words of the Lord says, if my people that are called by my name, believers, will, number one, humble themselves. Number two, they will pray. Number three, they will seek his face. And number four, they will turn from their wicked ways. And he says that to all of us, that when we do those things, he will begin to hear from heaven and he will heal our land. We can do better. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and I agree 100%. Mr. President, would you like to go to the podium and Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for those compelling and articulate words.